Welcome to another Bible time, another week of Bible time, as we start with this Monday edition. And we had a great day at Believers Fellowship on Sunday. So encouraging to see so many people coming out to church and to be able to celebrate the Lord's table and to worship the Lord together, to look into His Word. It was a great day in many ways, and we're looking forward to the future here at Believers Fellowship. We've got some plans coming up. We've got women's ministries that are starting up. We've got men's ministry starting up. We've had discussions about starting up children's ministry. You're going to be hearing more about that. And we're just thankful for all the opportunities that we have. We're trying to make the very most of everything we can do. We're gonna try and do everything we can, as much as we can, under the current guidelines and ways to serve you and to serve the church and to be a light to this community for Jesus Christ. And so we're thankful for that. And of course, at the heart of what we do is we teach the Bible. We believe the Bible. It's the revelation from God, and that's why we're doing these Bible times, to regularly study through the Bible together. And today we come to a very important chapter, 2 Kings chapter 17. And if you remember back when we started 1 Samuel, I gave you one word that could summarize all of 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Just one word. And that one word that summarizes the whole thing is the word rejection. You might remember back in 1 Samuel chapter 8 and verse 7, Samuel's bemoaning the fact that the people want a king. They want a king just like everybody else has a king. They want to have a king too. And Samuel's saying, well, what are you talking about? We got God for our king. But no, the people want to have a king. And so God comforts Samuel by saying, Samuel, don't feel bad. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting me. And that's where it started. And as we've read through these chapters together, we've seen the downward spiral of Israel and Judah. And it's all kind of summarized in this chapter. And here you see the rejection of Israel, the northern kingdom, rejected by God. They rejected God. That set them on this course. And now they are rejected by God. In fact, verse 20 says, and the Lord rejected all the descendants of Israel and afflicted them and gave them into the hand of plunderers until he had cast them out of his sight. Yeah, this chapter talks about Assyria coming, and Hoshea had been a vassal to Assyria, paying them, but he was also secretly on the side trying to negotiate with Egypt for help. And when Assyria found out about that, that began a 3-year siege on Samaria, and with Assyria eventually winning and taking Israel off into exile. And that happened in 722 BC. And it's important to think about, well, why did that happen? Well, it wasn't because of their military. It wasn't a military failure. It wasn't a political failure. It wasn't a financial failure. It was a spiritual failure. And that should give you and me in America something to think about, something to cause us to stop and consider. We have a strong military. We have a strong economy. We're the wealthiest nation maybe that's ever existed. And yet, we're dying from the inside out because of the spiritual decay that's happening in our country. And you see it in Israel, despite God's long suffering. I mean, all this time, all of these wicked kings that he endured, and all the faithfulness that he showed to him, and all the ministry of his prophets. When we get to the section of the prophets of the Old Testament, you're going to see many of them speaking to Israel during this time, warning them, calling them back to the law of God, and compelling them to follow God. And yet they refuse to do so. And God is extremely patient with them. And the bottom line with all of this is that they were worshiping other gods. They're trying to honor God, they're trying to serve God and other gods at the same time. But what you see here is the same message you see all through the Bible, is that God requires wholehearted worship. In fact, the Bible refers to God as being jealous. He doesn't like competition from other gods, which really aren't gods at all. He wants you to fear him alone. And again, that's something for us to think about, because how many people, they want to worship God, but they want to serve their idols at the same time. This should be a great big warning to us of how serious God takes all of this and how serious we need to take it. And so the lesson for you and me to learn here as you look at this historical account of the fall of Israel, which is explaining to the people who are exiled why they are there, how they got there, and it's talking about the downward spiral of the people of Israel, which, by the way, is a fulfillment of what God told the very first king of the northern kingdom, that Jeroboam, that if they continue down this path, this is exactly what would happen to them. And you see all of this happening. That should be a great big warning to you and me, and it should be a great big warning to regarding the people that we serve. We want to call each other, encourage each other to wholehearted devotion to the Lord. And it should cause us to be really concerned about our country and the things that are going on here. And even as we talked in the sermon yesterday, it should help us to focus on the things that really matter. It's not the politics that are making the difference. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that we don't need government or that government isn't important and that how you vote isn't important. Now, that's not what I'm saying. But government isn't going to change people's hearts. And you can have good government and wicked hearts. And this is the kind of judgment that God brings. And so the lesson is you can't serve God and anything or anyone else. We need to develop a wholehearted devotion to Him, to loving Him with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, which would mean we need to begin by repenting of our sin of not doing that and putting our trust completely in Jesus Christ so that we can stand justified before God and then follow Him. Jesus calls us to follow Him. So let's begin this week by thinking seriously about this, and let's be determined this week to stand fast for the Lord and encourage one another to follow the Lord wholeheartedly. And we'll keep learning more, even from the sins of Israel. That'll be very powerful and very helpful for us. And so I look forward to another week of Bible time with you, and we'll see you tomorrow for more.